I would like to speak to you this afternoon about John 4, the chapter that we have read, and the topic is wells, not walls. Everybody does it. The Queen of Denmark seems to be doing it. The Queen of England, well, maybe she should do it. They do it in the United Nations. And, well, some grandmas are very curious. What are they doing? The US Navy, well, they're doing it. And, well, in North Korea, they would love to do it. The young people do it. And the young ones doing it perfectly. Even Chung-dong does it. And you can imagine what they are doing. Of course, they're doing it Gangnam style. Well, can you guess? After they've posted the video on YouTube, they posted Park Jae-sung's video on YouTube, and the first day it was posted there, 500,000 people watched it. After 3 months, Justin Bieber was hysterical because it surpasses his previous record, and earlier this week, up to 850 million people watched it. Gangnam style. It flooded Korea, went over to Europe, the Americas, Africa, down under in Australia, and even in Russia. Everybody's doing it. Gangnam style. But brothers and sisters, there's another style that is even more popular. And that style has been with us for more than 2,000 years now. It got far more hits than Gangnam style. It's also danced by the young and the old, by the Pope and the priest, by the layman, the pastor, and also the youngest. And this is the Jesus style. Doing it Jesus style. What is this Jesus style? How is it to do it Jesus style? Let me start by telling a story. We do love stories, don't we? And this is a real story. It was told of an English farmer who went to Australia, and he visited a sheep farm in the Down Under, right there in the very dry, vast areas of Australia. And this farm was immense. It was huge. It stretched in all directions as far as you could see. And so he spoke to the farmer from Australia, and he said to him, well, you must need an awful lot of barbed wire or fencing to keep all these sheep in. Your walls must be very high, and you must spend a lot of money on walls. And this farmer said to him, no, not at all. We don't build walls. We don't make fences. We just build wells. They stay where there are wells, not walls. You see, Jesus understood this very clearly. He understood this immensely well. And in John 4, we get this fantastic story. Jesus did things a bit differently. He did things his way. So we get Jesus and his disciples. They were traveling down to Jerusalem. And there's that one beautiful, beautiful verse. He said he had to go through Samaria. Well, it wasn't the highway. Actually, Jews didn't go through Samaria traveling to Jerusalem. They used a detour simply because they didn't like the Samaritans. They didn't like those people. I mean, they despised them. So Jesus said, no, we go through Samaria. There's a town I want to go through. There's a town I want to visit. I've got an appointment somewhere with someone. And so we read the story. John tells us the story. They went through the town of Sychar. And Jesus sent off his disciples to go and buy food. Must have been quite a mission for them. They had to speak to those people. And Jesus sat there at the well. It was the hottest part of the day. Now we in Seoul, we know what is hot. In the middle of the summer, we all complain about the heat, don't we? But if you go to that part of the world, well, about 54, 55 degrees Celsius, that's what hot is. So you can imagine the hottest day, there's no one else. And Jesus sat there, and by, there's a woman coming to draw water. You see, the Samaritans were a mixed-race people, and they had intermarried with the Assyrians centuries before. They were hated by the Jews because of this cultural mixing, and because they had their own version of the Torah, and even their own version of religion, of God. And this is this woman coming to the well to draw water, the hottest part of the day, instead of the morning, instead of the usual time, the morning or the evening. This woman rejected by the rest. This woman that was sort of outcasted by the rest. And Jesus spoke to her. Now in our day it is fine. You can speak to a woman, but in Jesus' times that was not okay. That was a huge taboo. Don't speak to women, especially if you're a rabbi. You see, Jesus was sort of notorious for breaking down walls. This woman lived in a society of religious and social walls. And all around her she could observe the one wall after the other, the one higher than the former, stronger. And here Jesus broke through those walls. And what we see is Jesus at the well, not at the wall. In his encounter with this woman, he broke 3 very important Jewish customs. He spoke to a woman. He spoke to a Samaritan. See, and even got water from her. He asked water from her. Let's quickly look at this woman. She was a Samaritan, despised by the Jews, hated by the religious establishment of the day. Jews would do anything not to speak to Samaritans. They would even travel miles further, taking detours, than go through Samaria. Oh, those high walls of separation, fear, perceptions. Doesn't sound very familiar? Isn't that the style of so many of us today? We fear those unknowns. We fear those things that are not cozy and that don't fit into our thoughts. We tend to build walls around our familiar worlds, our perceptions of what is right or wrong, and how we perceive the world and even the Bible. And anyone outside these walls, they're a threat to us. Surrounded by walls. Sometimes we live in our own enclosed walls. And instead of breaking through it and experiencing the freedom of God, we just build our walls higher. Walls are not always bad, but walls can become prisons. The second, she was a woman. Quite obviously not. But you see, brothers and sisters, for a rabbi to speak to a woman in public was totally forbidden. William Barclay tells us of some Pharisees he called the blood-nosed Pharisees. He says that some Pharisees were so afraid of even seeing a woman that when they walk in the street and they see a woman coming, they would close their eyes and they would walk right into a wall or a pillar. And they usually had blood noses. So he calls them the blood-nosed Pharisees. And to speak to her was revolutionary. It was breaking through a huge wall. But the story gets better. She was known as a bad woman, an adulterous woman, the outcast of town. That's why she came there at the hottest of the day. You see, in the morning when it's cool, all the women of the town came together. You see, the well was the Starbucks of Sychar. It was the coffee shop. It was sort of the Facebook, or prehistoric Facebook. It was the gossip place. It was a place for exchanging news and recipes. It was a social media of the first century, a place to meet. She wasn't invited. She was unfriended, like we do on Facebook. If we don't like someone, we just unfriend them. That's easy. She was unfriended, the outcast. They all looked at her, not seeing the woman she is, but they were seeing 5 husbands. They were seeing just what is sort of obvious in their own minds. You see, we don't see the world as it is. We see the world as we are. They saw the world through their own lenses. Modern scholars argue that this woman might have been the victim of a system that was common in those days. You see, it happened so that women had to marry a man mostly if they're very young. We know that Mary, it was said that Mary married Joseph when she was about 12, 13 years old. It wasn't uncommon for a woman to marry someone very old while they were very young. So it is possible, and there are many arguments for this, that she might have married this man when she was very young. This man was quite old. He might have died. Then she became the wife of his brother. Also very important those times was that they had to produce children. If she couldn't, well, passed on to the next one. And so it's possible that this husband, that's not really her husband, was keeping her there for trying her out. maybe she can give him a child. If not, she is gone. We don't know. There are many arguments. The one thing that I know, and one thing that John tries to make us aware of, is the fact that Jesus broke through all of those perceptions. And he's creating a well. Where all the others, the women of the town, the men of the town, the disciples were erecting walls, for her not to break through, but for him, he was creating a well. A place to rest. A place to live. A place where life could be regenerated. The third, he asked her for a drink. That's revolutionary. Because in the law it is that if he touched that vessel, if he gets a drink from her, he will be unclean. And even that didn't deter him from asking her water. Brothers and sisters, Jesus at the well, Jesus breaking down walls to get to the heart of the rejected, the outcast, the social and unacceptable, the religious unclean. He's doing it Jesus style. He's doing it in a style that would mark the first church who revolutionized the world in such a short time. Because when they started to dance in the Jesus style, the world was flabbergasted. They couldn't believe it. This is what we were looking at. This was what we were looking for, the Jesus style. In 1978, Paul Hibbert, our Fuller Theological Seminary, developed a construct that helps us to think about who we can and cannot align with ourselves. And he makes the distinction between a bounded set and a centered set. I'd like to explain that to you, because when we understand this, we understand a little bit more about what Jesus is doing right here. You see, a centered set, on the one hand, it consists of people who share a common affection. There you see the two sets. Common affection, interest and pursuit of allegiance to someone or something. That is the circle. And the centered set and the bounded set, those are two different things. The bounded set is a circle, and inside the circle are the distinctive beliefs and practices of those inside the circle. That's the first circle there. You see, they ask the one question, who is in, who is out? And that's what the church is doing so much. Who is in? Who is with us? Who believe the same as we do? And all the others are out, and we have to build our walls very high to keep them out and keep us in. And we try and find ways to keep people in and keep the others out. But there's another set, and that's the centered set. So the one set asks the question, are you with us or out? But the second one, the centered set, asks this, do you care what I care about? You see, the centered set, there's something in the middle, and there you can see there's a cross in the middle, and everybody's focused on the cross. It's the well, it's a life-giving thing. It's not a threatening thing, let's keep them out and let's keep us in. There's a center, and that center is the well. That center is a cross. Keep me close to your cross. The old hymn says, keep me closer, closer to your cross. You see, I want to return to my initial story of the farmer. You see, farmers might build big fences around their properties to keep their livestock in and livestock or the animals out. But in Australia, they cannot really do that. You see, they need to build wells. They need to build wells. That's the center it's set. Churches that are transforming their communities think in terms of sinking wells, rather building walls. A well is what people in community mutually care about. Churches that are transforming communities don't divide over the differences, but unite with others because they have a well. Brothers and sisters, where are today's spiritual wells? Where do the thirsty come for drink and the heavy laden find rest? We have wells, but sometimes we hide them by our walls and our fences of ambition and fear. We sometimes are so protective. This is mine. This is how we do it. I would like to see in my vision for us, my vision for this ministry is that we will become a centered set. That we will become a spiritual well that will draw those who are thirsty, those in need of rest, where they can come to drink, and where they can come freely and go if they want, because there's a well. Brothers and sisters, Psy has done it with Gangnam Style. Can you imagine what will happen in this world with all its brokenness and all its pain if we start dancing it the Jesus style? If we do it the Jesus style, wells, not walls.